I enjoy Sausage Party. Sure, it has its flaws, but flaws and all, I did actually enjoy Sausage Party. It's a strong word to say that I love Sausage Party. It's more of I like it. I enjoy watching it. It's one of the movies I would watch every few months. But if I had to be exact, I guess it's something I would watch at least once a year. But I don't think it's that bad if I'm only watching it for a year. That just means I need some time to process what I watch and enjoy every few times. Anyway, the point is, despite this, I still enjoy Sausage Party, and since it's released in theaters, I've hoped that Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, and the team behind Sausage Party would come together again to write a sequel for this movie, and would continue the journey of Frank continuing to give food across the world freedom against the humans. And sure, it took 8 years, but we finally got it. The problem was that it's a TV show on Amazon Prime, and it's kind of reconstructing the story of because of how the movie ended. But despite this, I do think that it's still a good direction to bring the show back. Well, the franchise back. The movie back? The point is, it's back as a TV show, and my only gripe with it is I feel like it should have been a 2D animated show, seeing as how shows like Hazbin Hotel and Invincible has been performing as a 2D animated show for adults. It could have worked, but all in all, it's back. So, Sausage Party Foodtopia follows Frank, Brenda, Sammy Bagel, and Barry after a revolution across the world with food fighting humans comes to an end as the food have won, and now they are enjoying their free society with humans out of the way. Sadly, a rainstorm comes in, killing some foods in their path, mainly any of them that are bread related, so cake, bread, you know, anything that can't really survive against water dies during the rain, and they realize that they need a human to survive. They find a human named Jack and use him as a resource and information to figure out what to do against the natural resources that could kill food, such as animals and natural disasters. And because of this, Frank believes that he could actually be useful, whereas the rest of the society, including Brenda and Barry, believe that he should be killed. So the movie, or TV show for that matter, season 1, follows Frank trying to figure out how to keep Foodtopia a reality, while also facing the political struggles of Foodtopia and also keeping Jack alive from the overall conflict. So this show does a lot with what happened with the original, which makes it as if it's better to just watch the TV show and skip the movie, which I do feel like is a better option if you don't feel like watching a 90-minute movie over an 8-episode show. And going through 8 episodes isn't really that bad. I mean, yeah, it'll take 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it's not that bad binge watching the whole show overall. Anyway, I do think that it is actually a pretty good direction because the movie opens with the food on war with humans instead of them going to different worlds to face their human creators from another world, which I feel like shouldn't have ended in the first movie. So in a way, this TV show kind of fixes the ending because you can basically just watch the movie and then just turn it off after the dance party ending and just go straight into the TV show, or just skip the whole movie in general. The movie does have a lot of changes with itself because of what the movie sets up. Instead of it just being how the movie ends, we go straight into an overall war, which I feel like season 1 should have been about. Season 1 should have been about them fighting against humans, but we literally skip to the end of it, or the final act of that battle. And it is nice to see Frank and the others prevail in becoming free, but after the rain comes in, a lot happens. We have a political storyline following an orange named Julius who uses teeth as courtesy in the economy, and we have Frank trying to keep Jack alive. We have Barry making a task force to keep Foodtopia stable, government-wise, and we have Brenda, who she doesn't really have a storyline, honestly. Like, it spans between figuring out who's behind this all this scheming and trying to be the leader of Foodtopia. So your best answer is better than mine. I can guarantee that. The basics of it all is that Sausage Party Foodtopia Season 1 is that one show where in its first season, it doesn't know what kind of show it wants to be. And it kind of suffers from that because of that. And it just also reconstructures the characters. For example, I want to start with him, this character first, because it seemed to be much more focused on him character wise. Sammy Bagel Jr. has a very interesting story arc. By now, you might probably must be wondering why I didn't bring up Durisa del Taco or Firewater and the Non-Perishables, and even Lavash for that matter, as they're one of the most important characters in the first movie. Well, there's a reason behind that, and it's because these characters are not in the show. If they're not in the show, it's because they either died off screen or just aren't relevant to the overall show, so they were removed from the show. One of the characters to suffer from this is Lavash, being revealed to have been killed by being stabbed to death by 3 forks in his body. And Sammy is trying to grieve the loss of his lover as Sammy and Lavash actually becomes an item at the end of the first film. As for Teresa Del Taco, it's unclear what happened to her, but she is not a non-perishable, so the very likely scenario is that she also died during the war against humans. And as for the non-perishables, while we do see Twink somewhere in the fight, he isn't seen again after that one scene. So the very likely scenario is that after the fight, the non-perishables left and traveled the world and became nomads. That's my best and only answer. So what happens to Sammy is that as a grieving tactic, he uses his grieving as an opportunity to expand his somewhat horizon as he becomes a somewhat of a comedian. He gets into showbiz and he uses his showbiz. He chooses that over helping his best friends, and as a result, it leads, at least one of his choices leads to Brenda's death, as she also dies in this show. It's something that I didn't think was going to happen, but yes, it did. And because of Frank choosing to save Jack and defend him and keep him from being discovered, he does run for president alongside Brenda and Julius, the villain of season 1, or at least one of them is this villain. And because of their interactions, there's kind of like a food on human type of ordeal between Frank and Jack, which I gotta say, I skipped it. I did not want to see that. It's something I don't want to watch again. If I do binge season 1, I will skip that scene every single time. And Brenda and Barry actually figures out about this little ordeal that these two have. And this is also what causes Brenda's death. One of it being that Frank was choosing a human over his people, and even though he was going to go fix it with Brenda, it was too late because she already was killed by Julius and was framed, and it was up to Barry and Sammy to team up with Jack to save him, as he was going to be cooked on a grill until he died. And this is where I throw in something that Pixar seems to do a lot, and it is twist villains. Apparently, the surprise here is that Julius is the antagonist, but he isn't the villain. The real villain is a grain of rice who wants to control Foodtopia through Julius, through the currency of teeth that is their version of money in this world. And even though she was defeated, she was not killed by Barry, as she was going to be snapped in half by Barry. But because of the death of Brenda, he did not want any more bloodshed and death to be fallen on Foodtopia, which was her dream mainly. So as a result, he stopped all of it. He gave Rice another chance, Julius isn't a villain anymore, and Foodtopia went back to fighting over territory, which led to Frank using Jack as a weapon to basically become leader, claiming that that the people of Foodtopia cannot be trusted to make their own decisions, so he's going to be the one in charge to make the decisions for them. And the show ends, or at least season 1 ends, with the characters, with It ends with the drone flying overhead of the entire crowd. And a lot of people, or at least people who cared about the show, made a bunch of theories about it. Well, comment wise. And believed that they would actually be the new villain for season 2. And of course, that wasn't the case. But in my opinion, season 1, despite having all these flaws, it still told at least a decent story. But if I had to pit the film and season 1 of Foodtopia against each other, I would say that the movie did a better job telling the story. Sure, it had 4 storylines. The movie had 4 storylines that happened at the same time instead of one coherent story, but at least it still told a story. Whereas season 1 of Foodtopia felt like it just was focusing on politics and the economy in a matter of 8 episodes. Or I guess 6 episodes, since episode 1 and 2 was about building up the story and starting it. So we can go by that. So here's my rating. I'm going to give the story an 8 out of 10. It was an okay story, but I feel like it just didn't do much to take advantage of the fact that Sausage Party is now a TV show. So yeah, this is why it's going to be an 8 out of 10. And I'm also going to give this season 1 of Foodtopia also an 8 out of 10 because even though I did enjoy it, I can't give it a higher rating for both story and the show itself overall. So the story is an 8 out of 10 and the show itself is also an 8 out of 10.